Vincent Briatore here. Due to all of the positive feedback that I got from my previous Rhino Poop story, I figured I'd share another crazy story of shenanigans I got myself into. This is going way back because I'm now 33, almost said 32, but it's 33 now. And so it was 11 years ago now. It was about 22. First got out of the military and was staying up with my parents and started getting pressure. They're like, you got to do something. So I was looking through the newspaper on the jobs, the wanted, whatever ads, not wanted, the job ads in Selma. And there was this ad for a trucking company. It was Swift. And they advertised, paid training. So after that, you can drive, cross country, make $80,000 a year. It sounded perfect for me. So I said, okay, I called them up. Within a week, they had me on a Greyhound going up to Millington. So right outside of Memphis. That's where they had the little training for the trucking. Now, in this Millington, that's where Justin Timberlake's from. Didn't see him, but, anyway, just random piece of trivia. So they had this motel that they had purchased, and the entire motel was now dedicated to house the students during the training. And there's not a paid training kind of situation. You brought a little money, and they housed you and brought you every day to the little airport. They had like an airport that was shut down, and so they used that runways and everything to put the trucks and the training. So you went there, part of the time it was classroom training, and then part of the time was hands-on training. It was like 8 to 12 weeks, something like that, the training. At the end of that training, you took your DMV test to get your CDL, and then you went out your business working for Swift. So anyway, while I was out there, and keep in mind, these are all dudes, 200 people, all dudes in this place. So there was this Dollar Tree right next to the motel. I'll just call it the motel, but it wasn't a motel anymore. And all of the trucking people were constantly in this Dollar Tree buying trinkets, food, whatever. And there was this girl that worked there, and she had this flowing red hair, and this kind of like Jersey tan, but she was pretty. She was a looker. And everybody was obsessed over this girl. You can imagine, everybody was flirting, and you had a lot of old guys at this place, but you had a lot of young guys too. So it's a little competition. But guess who got the attention of this bro? Yours truly. At the time, I used to wear this little hat crooked. She asked me, anyway, in summer, I started talking to her. And I don't know, we kind of clicked. Now, I don't know if she did this with every incoming class. I don't know. But I assumed that there was something about me that was just so special that attracted her. So we start hanging out. You can imagine the jealousy circulating in that fucking place. Because there's like 200 dudes. There's one attractive, 21, 22-year-old broad that's working in the Dollar Tree. And everybody's hitting on it. And I pull it off. Boom. So we go out and stuff. The training is like, 10, 11 hours a day. I mean, it's long. So then people are studying. Obviously, I'm not studying anymore. I'm hopping in this broad's little Grand Dam, going around Millington. And, well, eventually, the rooms, you was shared. Because it was like double or triple bed. So it was like 2 to 3 people per room. I don't remember if it was 2 to 3. I think it was 2. So anyway, and they had these rules. You could not bring anybody in the rooms that wasn't within the trucking service. So definitely no broads. So anyway, what do I happen to be? I get caught with her in the room and get kicked out of the whole training. That's what's fucked up about it. They snitched on me. Now, who does such a thing? Like, I feel like there's some camaraderie there. You got to cover. But, the jealousy thing, like some old bastard was like, oh, yeah, you know what, Vincent, he was over there with that redheaded devil in the rooms, and I missed a day of class. So I come in the next day, and immediately they're like, you had a girl in the room, you're out of here. I'm like, fuck, man. And it was like week 8 or 9, so I had no more money either, because it was the end of the training. So I was like, man, what do I do now? So obviously, I get kicked out, and you get there like 4 or 5 in the morning. So it was like 5 in the morning. They drive me back to the motel, drop my house off. They say, get your shit, you're out. So I get my shit, and I call up the dame. I'm like, hey, I got kicked out. and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm still in Millington. I'm not even in Memphis. Got no money. Pretty desperate. And I'm very fond of her, so you gotta keep that in mind. So she says, "Oh my God, what happened? Don't worry, I'm on my way. Meet me in front of the Dollar Tree where she works." So I get my bag, and I go ahead, and I'm standing in front of this Dollar Tree. And I'm kind of excited. Like, I'm kind of excited because it's a different chapter. So I'm like, you know what? The trucking maybe wouldn't have worked out. I'm in a truck all day. Now I got this nice redheaded dame. She's coming down to pick me up. We're gonna start a new life or something in Millington. I don't know. Well, minutes turn into fucking hours. They turn into more hours. I waited out there in the cold about 7 hours. Obviously, I was calling and texting her, but it got to a point she wasn't replying anymore. And I had my heart in my throat. I'm like, what am I doing? So I try. I don't have any other options. She never showed up. So in the end, I waited, and the people who graduate, they take them or back to Memphis on the shuttle. So I kind of acted like I had graduated and snuck on the shuttle to be taken back to Memphis. Then I got to Memphis, and I had to phone my parents, which wasn't. This explains a little bit why my parents, the Rhino shit, they had enough, because I've been doing shenanigans like this for a while. And so I call my parents. I tell them what happened. Obviously, they're pissed because I was supposed to get a job. This should have been a career, and instead, I get stuck with a broad and get kicked out. But anyway, they're like, "All right, we'll get you a damn ticket." It was from Memphis to Florida, and I was in northern Florida, like near Tallahassee. It's not that far. It's not that expensive a ticket. So anyway, I leave. I come back home. I end up like getting a job at like Winn-Dixie, which is like a grocery store in Florida. So I'm at this. I'm just working away. One day, someone calls. Guess who calls? The redheaded devil calls. And guess what her explanation was? And I had 7 hours sitting there, so I had a lot of scenarios playing through my head. And she tells me the only thing that would have made sense. She's like, I was on my way to get you. I got pulled over by the cops and arrested. And I'm like, man, well, that's plausible. That's, I mean, I didn't know she was, some sort of criminal. So, but, it happens. I don't know. So at first I was skeptical, but, then she's all like, "I love you, I miss you, yada, yada, woof, woof." And I'm like, okay, well, I started to believe it. Then she starts talking about, "I miss you so much, you should come back up." And I'm like, how am I going to... So anyway, we keep talking and talking. So eventually, I'm always with my heart out there. I'm like a romantic. So I just thought, okay, maybe we could still have this thing. We start a new life, me and the redhead, and live happily ever after. So I quit my job at Winn-Dixie. I get my last check from Winn-Dixie and get on a bus, go back up to Millington. So I get up there. She's 2 hours late picking me up at the Greyhound station, which already I was like, oh. So when she pulled up, I'm like, alhamdulillah. This broad showed up. So I was like, okay, hop in the car. We drive up to Millington, which is, I don't know, it's like 20 minutes from Memphis. I'm in the car, we're talking like, oh my God, so happy to see you. I missed you. She's like, oh my God, you have no idea. It's so crazy. Whoa, whoa. So anyway, we get to Millington and somebody calls on the phone. She gets on the phone. She's like, oh my God, I can't remember. Well, they bicker. And then she looks at me. She says, oh, that's my, and she had a kid. Okay. She had, I think it was a daughter, and she had a daughter in the car. I was like, hey, how cute little daughter, 3 or 4 years old. I don't know. But so it was her ex calling, and she's like, oh, I got to drop my daughter off at my ex's. So I got to go by the ex's. I'm like, okay, I guess I can just sit in the car, And she's like, no, you know what? Let me just drop you off like right here. I think it was like a Little Caesars or something. I'll be right back. And I'm like, eesh. I'm like, well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to, it's, and I can understand. So I'm like, okay, well, let me get my bag out of the trunk. All my possessions are in this bag. And she's like, no, don't even worry about it. Leave the bag in the trunk. I'm just going to go, boom, drop off my daughter, come right back. I'm like, you're sure? By this time, it's nighttime again, and it's still cold. I know, it was a long winter. So anyway, she drops me off over there. And I'm sitting there and waiting. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, there's no way that she's just going to, well, minutes turn into hours. And then texts are no longer replied, no longer she answered the phone, nothing. I think I waited a good 4 hours out there. And then I was like, holy crap, this name, Madonna Santissima. What are we doing here? So I was in a panic because I didn't have my bag. I mean, I had everything that I owned in my bag. So, so I walk over to like a grocery store and I call my mom. I'm like, Ma, I'm here stranded. She left, and I tell her the story. My mother's pissed. She's like, ay, ay, ay. So she Western Unions me like $100, enough for me to get a motel for the night. So I get the motel for the night. I wake up the next morning. I'm hoping now she's going to answer the phone or something, but nothing. Still, no phone, no nothing to answer. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So at this point, I'm pissed. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the police department. I know you guys, I'm not trying to snitch or nothing, but she had my bag and everything. I had my computer and I had everything. So what am I supposed to do? So I go over there. I go to the, he's like, well, and I try to tell him this fucking crazy story, but I can't even get halfway through the story. He says, was it a U.S. Army bag? I'm like, yeah, because it was a duffel bag that said U.S. Army on it. They found it the night before in the middle of the road, like at an intersection. Somebody just threw it out the damn window. I'm like, what kind of person? So my shit was all smushed up, but I got my bag back. What kind of person? I'm thinking, what kind of person would do such a thing? I want to say I was furious, but I was brokenhearted. Like I was just confused. Like, why drag me all the way up here? Like, I don't know how it happened. Maybe she went over to the ex, he was there with a fucking towel or something, dropped the towel. It's like, hey, I don't know what happened. But it's like, you should have made sure, like, that you dragged me all the way up here. So I'm like, done. So at this point, I get my duffel bag back. And at this point, what did I do? I think I went to Lincoln, I hitchhiked my way. I had some friends that lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. Because I was like, my mom's and everything, they're pissed at me. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go see. I met them in the trucking class. And they're like, come up to Lincoln, we'll party. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Lincoln. So I hitchhiked my way all the way to Lincoln. Just truckers only, because I had the story and I had the learners CDL and a good story behind it. So I get to Lincoln. I'm there like a week, hanging out with the dudes. And what happened when I was there? No, it wasn't her that called, okay? I got my way back into the class at the trucking school because I had like 2 weeks left. So I kept calling because my parents were like, you need to get back in and finish those classes. So I kept on calling, finally got back in. They bought me a bus ticket to go back to Memphis to finish the classes. So I'm like, okay, fine. I go, try to finish the classes. Guess who shows up? Well, I see her because she's still at the Dollar Tree. I think we go out one more time, and she doesn't really even give a good explanation as what happened. And still wanted to see me, but I was like, man, I'm done with this stuff. And that was it. I think we were in a Sonic, and that was the last time I saw her. Anyway, I finished the trucking classes, whatever. And then I drove maybe 6 months in training, and it wasn't for me. Then I skipped over to a couple of different companies, and I was just like, this is not for me at all, It's one thing to want to see the country. It's another thing to do in a truck. All you see is interstates. You're sleeping in the back. And when you're doing teams, you always got some weird guy driving with you. No, it's not the best. But that's that story. So it's pretty depressing. And that's the thing. I still think about that. But I tell you, when I was living that situation, it was like a mixture of emotions, man. Like, it was because you're young. You think you're in love. You do these crazy things over and over when anybody could have saw it and said, you know what, that she's crazy. It turned out that she had said she was on methadone. And at the time, I had no clue what methadone, like I knew methadone is what like they give recovering addicts, but I had no idea that it meant that she had been, dealing with an opiate addiction. And of course, it all kind of started making sense, the arrest and everything. But I just didn't know anything about that stuff at the time. For me, drugs was a little weed or something. I had no clue that someone as young as her with a child could be, battling this addiction. And plus she looked, like she was halfway well put together. She didn't look like she was crazy, but her behavior was so erratic. Hey, what I never thought about is that maybe she went to her ex's and he had dope. And that's why she That would make it explain. Because honestly, like, I really thought she was in love with me. It had to have been that. It had to have been that. Yeah. Man, I wonder what she's doing now, 11 years later. Hopefully she didn't OD or something. But that's very strange. You know, life is strange how you know, like when I was younger, I was all over the place. It wasn't until like 27 when I started my first like online marketing company and had a couple employees up in Providence that I kind of started turning things around. I've always felt like there was more. I could never do a 9 to 5. I can never follow rules. I can never do what someone else told me. You know, I always had to do my own thing, and I was always a risk taker. And some of those risks have really paid off, you know, especially later in life. But in my formative years, it made things very difficult for myself as well as my family. And that's why, you know, we kind of have this odd relationship. They've been very patient with me, you know, but I think it was kind of after that shenanigan that I never really lived at home after that, because you can imagine. But anyway, that's that story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, it's damn 16 minutes of recording. I don't know. But anyway, check out my other videos that are actually educational, informational. This was just for the hell of it. Thank you, guys.